Hello, welcome back to my channel. It's been a while, but I know you are doing good. Great. In this video, we are going to discuss something about web application development, and it's connected to our attendance system. If you can recall from our previous videos, okay. So in the video, we are going to create a UI, a user interface, which will comprise of a menu, a form, and a table. The menu will indicate the buttons, okay, buttons of operations. So when we click on that button, it should load something for us. All right. So that is what the menu will do, and the form will be the form on which we will be entering our data. Do you get it? To be captured on a particular person. Great. So if you are creating a staff, it means you are going to create a form that will capture staff details, all right, so that when we insert, it goes to our database. And that table, the table I'm talking about here, will represent the database. So as soon as we submit, it should insert in the database and appear on the table. So that is the UI we are going to develop in this video. Then in our next video, we start tackling the MySQL and the PHP side, connecting to the database and others. So this video or this section of the presentation marks the beginning of our web application development. All right, so we pause here and continue from the classroom mode. Okay, so this is what I've done. I've created a new file, a new PHP file, and I've copied these files, these codes from my previous project. All right, so you followed the last tutorial that we did. Okay, you realize we downloaded some files from our website and we extracted it in our project, then we started linking them. Okay, so all those were taught in our previous video. Okay, so what we have here, the codes we have here, were copied from our previous video. Okay, so before we start, all right, I want us to run this code so that we see how this code appears in our browser. Okay, all right, then we will take it from there. Okay, that one will help us to know what we have now and what we are going to add to it. Okay, all right, so I'll open my browser. Okay, I'm opening the file in my browser, and I'll clear this port because my own is on port 80, the default port. All right, so this is what we have so far. All right, so in the introduction, I talked about a menu, a form, and a table. So we're going to start with the menu. We're going to create a simple menu here. Okay, a menu column. All right, so let's add that one too. So let's go back. So that one will take place here. We put all of them in this row button, in this row div. Okay, all right, so what do we do first is we first create a div, give you the class column small medium 2. Okay, then we give it a style, we set it to a background color. Let's make it gray or dark gray. All right, then we want to add another style. If you are adding another style to it, you separate the two with semicolon, not colon, semicolon. So I bring my semicolon here, then I set my height. Then I'll set my height to say 600 pixels. Okay, then I'll close it. All right, so let me save it and run it and see how it is. What if we have done so far in the browser? All right, so this is what we have done. Okay, so we're now come to put our buttons here. We're going to put our buttons inside the div that we've created. All right, so but since the button, we want a button to work in a way that when we click on it, it should load a page for us. All right, so I'll introduce the A tag, the anchor tag, and the syntax is this. So I want it to load the index page once it's clicked. That button is clicked. If you load the index page for me, then I close it, then I bring my button inside the anchor tag. So button close. Then the button caption should be create staff. Create a staff. Okay. Then inside the button, I'll bring another attribute, a class attribute. Then set the form, the width to form control. Okay. So now let's see how the new addition appears. So you save, then you reload. All right. So I have my button here. Okay. I have my button here, my clickable button. So when I click on it, it loads the same page for me. Okay. All right. So let's try and bring this button down a bit so that we have a space from the top. Okay. So let's set a margin top. So let's bring a style. Then we set it to margin top. So the margin top, we are setting it to, let's say, 3%. 3%. So Control S. Then we go to the browser and see what we've done. Okay, so we have something small. So let's set it to 5 so that the space up there will increase. Okay, a bit. Let me put it that way. All right, so if we have our button here set, all right, so now let's go to the form. So the form, since we have this one, the first division to be 2, let's set the second division to be, let's say, COL, the class COL SM 9. Okay, 9. Then bring the class here. We set the margin left to say a percentage, 1%. Then we close it. All right. Okay. Then within that div, that is where the two divisions are going to appear. That is the form and the table. So I first bring a container that's going to house them. Div class row. And I bring a style. So the style is going to be margin top. From the top there should be a space between the header and the form and the body. Let me put it that way. So margin top we have, let me set it to 1%, then close it. Okay, so in between here, between this div, I'll set another div to, and that one will be 4x8. So SM4. Then I'll bring another one here, 8. Okay, so the 4 will hold the form, then the 8 will hold the table. Okay, all right, so I'll scroll down. All right, so for the form, we'll bring a new div, then set a class. Then we bring the card Z index, sorry, Z depth 1. Then bring the style to set a margin top to 4%. Alright. So this class here is a new one. Okay, from the materials plugin that we imported, we've already imported into the files. So if you followed the previous video, you will like the files that we downloaded from our website and extracted into our project. There was one folder called material folder. All right, it was a material styles or material. So these are the features. So these things has already been predefined. So you just have to know these. You have to just know the keys of it. Let me put it that way. All right. So we are just designing the nature of our form. The container, the form container, how it's supposed to look like. That's what we are doing right now. Okay. So with a margin top 4%. Then I'll introduce the card content. So the card content. So the form structure is being handled as a card. All right. So now we want to now set the card content. So bring a div, then a class, then we set it to card dash content. Okay. So within the card content, that is where we are going to have our form. Okay, we'll be using jQuery, so it's not necessary for us to put the methods and other attributes in the form. All right. Okay, so in a form we are going to set a row, div class row, then we introduce another div here, class col sm 12. We want it to fill the content. We want it to fill the entire form, the entire width. Okay. All right. So close this. Then we bring a field set. Field set will help us put a label that defines the form, the data we're going to collect. All right. So field set. Then the legend. So the legend holds the form title. All right. So we have here, let's say staff registration. Registration. Oh, okay. Registration. All right. So we have staff registration here. So now let's run the code. Okay, we have got it right now. Let's run it and see what we have done so far. So Control S, then you right click and reload. All right, so this is what we have done so far. So this is the card. All right, this is the card. So we've set the depth and the content. So now let's add some fields to it. Okay, let's add some fields to it. All right, so I'll scroll up. Then inside the field set, I'll bring in my div, another div class input field. Okay, input dash field, and I'm going to set it to margin top -5%. I want it to be up a bit, so -5%. Then inside there I bring my label, so I'll use h6. Okay, then the name will be, let's say, staff name. All right, then the input tag will come, input. So this input tag helps us to bring in a test field where a user can enter something. Okay, so whatever field available on the form, where a user can enter something inside. It's either an input or a test area. Okay, so we'll now bring our input tag. This is the first input tag we are using now. Okay, it's the first a new tag. So in this tutorial too, we are introducing some new tags, one or the other. All right, so just pay attention to it and just follow suit. Okay, so I have my input. The type, what type of input am I dealing with? So I have my type here as test. Okay, so it means we want this field to accept text variables. All right, so what's the name of the input? So I'll say txt staff name using the camel casing. All right, so then the id will be txt staff name, and we want it to be in such a way that, okay, let me save it before I introduce the new attribute. Let me save it and run it and see and see what we've done so far. All right, so we have this. Now when I click in here and I type, the font size is very small. Okay, the font size is very small, and when you load for the first time too, you have to go and click here before it becomes active. So you want to make it such that as soon as we load, okay, as soon as we load, we should have an autofocus. We should set the field to autofocus so that automatically the cursor will be activated or the field will be activated. All right, so let's go back here. In doing that, we will bring in a new attribute called autofocus. Then we set the font size style. We set the font size to say 17 pixels px. Okay, so let's save it and run it and see what we've done so far. All right, so if we've seen that as soon as we load, the cursor, the field becomes activated, and we have increased the font size too. So now when I type something here and I load, you see the font size is now bigger. Okay, so what we do next is we will now do a copy and paste. We now copy this one, the first input field that we created. We are copying it and we'll paste it here. Okay, we'll do several of the copy and paste. Okay, until we arrived at what the number of data I want to capture. And since this is just tutorial, we wouldn't load it with a lot of data. All right, okay, so if I have the name, I'll have gender. I'll have gender. Okay, so I'll bring here staff gender. I'll change the name here to staff gender. Alright, this one wouldn't be autofocus, so I'll just take this one off. So here, this staff gender can be done in two ways. You can either, if I do it this way, like I should accept the test, means they can enter, the user can enter either male or female. Okay, or you can also use a drop down, a select option. Okay, so that the user will select from that option. All right, so I'll first run this one and bring in a drop down. Okay, and you see how the two works. Then we select one. Okay, all right, with reasons though, with reasons. All right, so I'll paste another one here and say staff phone number. All right, so phone number is supposed to be digits. Okay, also from 0 to 9. Okay, so in 0 to 9 digits, they are all numbers, so I'll make it accept a number, so that when the user type in, let's say any character, okay, any alphabet or any character, it shouldn't accept it. So the name will be staff phone, the ID will be tst staff phone. All right, so phone here, this one to be no focus, no autofocus. All right, so since I have a phone number, I should definitely have an email. So let's say staff email, and the email to have a type called email. Alright, so I'll just copy this email, clear the phone from here, that's the name, and do the same thing here. Alright, so let's say we are taking record on we are taking these records of a staff. Okay, let's assume. Alright, so let's save this, and so let's save this and open it in our browser. So let's load. Alright, so this is what we have. Okay, this is what we have. So we have staff name, staff gender, phone number, and email. Alright, so see when you hover on the phone number, we have the counters here. So when you click on this, it loads up. When you reduce, it reduces. Okay, so that is how it is. Alright, and the email too is there like that. Alright, okay, so we have done 1, we have done 2. So now let's bring in our table. Okay, let's bring our table here. But here I was talking about the gender. Alright, so now I have to enter my gender here, male or female. Okay, so since gender in this world, we have 2, male or female. Alright, the other sides you can add them in your options. Alright, but for the purpose of this tutorial, we are going to have only 2, that is male and female. And you wouldn't expect a user to type capital A then small, like playing with your thing. Alright, though you can route them all to uppercase or something, but devoid spelling mistakes and other things. We just introduce a drop down. Do you get it? A drop down, select with an option, so that the user can just select from. Okay, so instead of bringing an input here, allowing the user to type, let's help the user. Okay, let's help the user by just bringing a select option for the user to just click select, and that's all. Right, so let's go back to the form and replace the gender here with a select tag. So I bring my select here, then I bring my name. The name should be, let me copy and paste this one. So I'll copy the whole of this, cut and paste. I'll clear the input. Alright, so select. So inside the select, okay, inside the select, I'll have my options. So option, okay, so the option I'll first bring here select gender. Okay, then I'll duplicate it. Then the first one I write male, then second one will be female. Alright, so let's run it and see how it will appear here. So reload. Good. Okay, so the gender didn't appear well. Okay, so now let's go back there and bring in a class. Okay, let's define a class in here. So we bring in a class called browser default. Okay, so let's save and run it and see. Voila. Right, so we have our options here. So here staff gender, this is here we have here called select gender. All right, so when I click on the drop down, I have my male or female. Okay, so this is how the select tag also works. All right, okay, so I think the phone number is too closer to the select, so now let me bring a break just after the select. Let me bring a break here. Let me run it and see. All right, now I have a space. It's not spacious. All right, so now we have the staff name, staff gender,
you have the phone number and the email. So let's bring a button here. All right, let's bring a button there where when we click on it, then whatever action that you want to take place will take place. Okay. All right, so let's go back to the page. Then still that one will not be in the field set, but rather be outside. All right, so where the row and begin, but it will still be in the form. So still in the form, right? Still in the form. Just bring in a new card action. So div class card action. All right. Set in my div. So class call row. Then div class col sn 12. Then I'll bring my button here. So button type button, okay, ID, I set it to btn submit. The name, say btn submit. Okay, the class, let me set in the class. So the class should be btn and it should be on the right side. On the right side, okay. All right, then the caption should be submit. All right, so let me save and run it, and then see what we have here. Good. So we have here the submit. We set it to right, so we have it here as right hand side. Then the button class, the button that we defined, okay, also brought in this curvy shape. So this button has been styled, all right, using our Bootstrap styling, right? Okay, so we don't have the second side done. We are done with the form. We are done with the form. So we have our menu here. First option is create a staff. As time goes on, we can add lots of buttons here, button options here. All right. So we have here create staff. We've created a menu. We've created the form. Now let's create the table. Then we end this session of the tutorial. Okay. All right. So now we go back. So with the table, I introduce a new div, and that one will be inside the second one, the second container that we created. You know, the first one was 4. If you recall, the first one was 4, right? Then this one was 4, and this one is 8. Okay, so the table will be inside the second div that we created. All right, the age definition. All right, so what we do is we also want to present the table on a card. All right, on a card. So just as we did for the top for the form, we will set the same div class card. Okay, then the z depth, set it to 3. Okay, close it. Then inside the div, we define our table. So we bring our table tag here. Then the ID of the table is supposed to be tables. Okay. All right. So every table, you can have a caption for the table, right? So you can have a caption for the table, and the caption name will be, let's say, report. Then the table head, right? So the table head will be, let's say, the column titles. All right, so we bring the head, t head, table head. All right, so let's define the content. So inside the head we have the row tr, table row. In the table row we have the table data td, or the head. So we are in the head, so we wouldn't bring the d. All right, so we bring the th, the th. Then we will now bring in the form that we created, the data that we created. So our database will be created in the same form, all right. So this data that we collected, all right, we want it to display for us when we insert them. We want the data to be displayed to us when we insert them. All right, so if you remember, we have the name, staff name. Replicate them. So I have staff, gender, I have staff phone, I have the email. All right, so these are the major data we are taking from the staff. Then we perform some other operations. We'll be handling insert, we'll be doing insert, select, delete, and update. Right, so here we'll bring here update. So update staff record. If you want to update, there should be a button that you click, and if you want to delete, there should be a button you have to click. Right, so far so good. We have defined the head of the table. So let's save and see. Let's save and see what we have done so far. So let's save and see. All right, so this is what we have done. Okay, this is what we've done so far. All right, okay, so let's complete the table. So inside the head, we'll definitely bring a body too. So since HTML is having the header and the body, the table also has its head and its body. All right, so we bring t body, we close it, then we put our content here. So in the future, in our next 2 or either 3rd video, we'll after we are done with the inserting and the selection and all those SQL queries, you'll come and complete this side, whereby you load this record from a database using the while loop. Okay, using the while loop. Yeah, so if you remember the loop that we learned, all right, so you can recall from our previous videos. You see, you should have time and go through all the videos to really understand the concept, all right, what we are working on. Okay, all right, so we have the body. All right, so let's say since we don't have anything in the body, nothing will actually come. All right, nothing will come up. We don't have anything here. So now let's bring in this new material design, okay, to make the table look nicer than this. This is too raw. Okay, so just above the close, the close of the body tag, we introduce what we call a script. Bring in a script here. Then in the script, let's write some JavaScript in here. Okay, I'm doing JavaScript. So at the end of the day, we'll be using jQuery, JavaScript, PHP, and this CSS, HTML thing. Okay, that is what we'll be working on basically. All right. So in JavaScript, just write if the document is ready. All right. So document dot ready function. All right. Okay, so let's set this one semicolon. All right, so you do as I type in. So we are saying when this document is ready, perform this function for us. Ready means when anything is active, right? So whatever you have here, if there is a call to it on runtime, it means as soon as the system runs, this document is ready. So whatever the definition that you've defined in there should automatically load up. Now let's try to add a material design to make the table looks more nicer than what we have now. Okay, from what we have now. So in doing that, we bring in our script here. So after writing your script, okay, so after writing your script and defining the document ready function, all right, now we bring in the parameters to define the table. All right, to make the table looks nicer. Okay, so in doing that one, we still have to relate to the table name that you created. So we have here ID table. So I'll just copy these tables, then scroll down here, then I'll bring a dollar into brackets hash tables, hash tables, then dot data tables, data table, parenthesis, then I bring my curly brace. Okay, then I set my DOM to single, the DOM, then you bring your single quote, then T, clear, then you bring your LF R TIP. Okay, so let's see how the table looks like. Okay, voila. Okay, all right, so this brings us to the end of this video. So as we said in the intro, we now have our menu side here, we have our form, and we have our tables. Okay, so in our next video we'll be handling tables, MySQL tables. All right, so we're creating a database, then we set a connection string, then we start playing around with some few PHP queries, then we come back here to link this interface that we've created to our table. All right, okay, so thank you for staying with me in this tutorial. We are starting for the next tutorial.